So there's just one day to go before Nigerians vote for a new president, and the Electoral Commission there is still giving assurances that the polls will be safe. The Commission held a briefing yesterday, marking the end of campaigning for the presidential, Senate and parliamentary elections. So in the past, elections in that country have been marred by violence, vote buying and clashes between supporters of rival parties. The Commission says there will be no discrepancies, though, in these polls. Well, let's get you a sense of the situation on the ground. Bring in now VOA correspondent Peter Clottey, who joins us via our video link this morning. And Peter, it's lovely to have you on the program. Thanks so much indeed for making time for Newzroom Afrika. And there's been a lot of focus, at least from media outlets outside of Nigeria, on these concerns around safety. Do you reckon the Commission went far enough in assuring everybody there that the polls this time around will be safe?
Thank you very much for having me on your show. Well, I was in the office of the Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of operations in Nigeria yesterday morning, and he assured me that they are working with all other sister security agencies to ensure that prospective voters are safe during the polls. Now, the military will also be deployed in a lot of these areas across the country to ensure that Nigeria's territorial integrity is protected. These are the assurances the security agencies are giving Nigerians in the run-up to the election. So they are working closely with INEC, the Independent National Electoral Commission, to ensure that people who go to the polls are safe and that they will cast their ballot in peace and that they should go home after casting their ballot and monitor the election results that will come out after the voting process. So indeed, INEC has assured people that working closely with the security agencies, the election period will be peaceful and safe.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder how you reckon that's landed with Nigerians, though. I mean, what's different this time around, many might ask?
Well, what is different this time is there appears to be a lot of enthusiasm from young men and women, the youth, as they call them here. In the middle of filing a report yesterday, somebody walked up to me and said, well, can you ask me any questions about this candidate and that candidate? I'm ready to do that. We want to have a hand in who our next leader is. So there is an enthusiasm generation. Now, it wasn't so 4 years ago when I was here covering from Lagos, but this time in Abuja, the enthusiasm is great. Now, when you go on social media platforms, you see the youth, with a lot of enthusiasm voicing that this time around they want to have a hand in who the next Nigerian president is. And the outgoing president, Muhammadu Buhari, has assured people that he doesn't have any candidate in the election, although he has previously endorsed his party's presidential candidate, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But he told Nigerians that they should feel free to choose whoever they want. The enthusiasm among the youth, and particularly on social media, has gone through the roof here.
Yeah, and I suppose in one way or the other, social media sometimes has a way of misleading the narrative. I mean, we've, for instance, heard from young people in Nigeria cautioning against, for instance, looking to social media to gauge who the favorite is among young people, who I understand make up about 40% of the registered voters. It's a big chunk. But even at this late stage, I wonder to what extent you reckon we can tell how this election is likely to go.
Let me tell you a funny thing that happened. There are 3 polls that came out in the last few days. Now, one poll showed that youth favorite, Peter Obi from the Labour Party, a former Anambra State governor, will win the election on Saturday. A second poll is predicting Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is popularly called the Jagaban from the ruling All Progressive Congress, or APC, will win the election. The third is predicting that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, or the PDP, will win the election. So 3 different polls, 3 different outcomes. We can only determine who wins the election on Saturday.
Yeah, that's interesting indeed. But either way, we're going to get a new president, and I suppose that's another big marker of the shift that's likely to take place in Nigeria. To what extent do you reckon Muhammadu Buhari's own legacy will influence how people vote this time around?
Well, an interesting thing is developing at the moment. Nigeria changed its currency, redesigned its currency. In the last few weeks, last year up to this year, and there is a currency shortage at the moment, and people are grumbling. People have money in the banks, but they don't have cash to transact businesses, forcing people to use online transaction, mobile transaction, and the lot. And sometimes, because you have over 200 million people depending on the same process of transaction, the system appears to be loaded. Some of these banks are being affected, and people are finding it tough to purchase things. And some are even telling me that people are being, because of the lack of cash, they can't travel to their respective homes to go and vote. So it's disenfranchising people. A ruling party member told me, he's a sitting or outgoing state governor, his name is El Rufai, a founding member of the ruling party, says that it seems the implementation of the policy was aimed at inciting Nigerians against the candidates of the ruling party. However, some people are saying that the new currency policy has evened the playing field, so there could be no vote buying, and then it will prevent kidnapping. There were reports of even some of these bandits and terrorists dishing out some of the old currency notes they had to people because it will be useless for them to use. So there is this back and forth, and some critics of the administration are saying that the ruling APC is behaving as if it's in the opposition, because it's members of the APC who took the government to court over the new currency policy. So these are some of the instances. Political analysts are telling me it will have an impact on who wins Saturday's presidential election.
Certainly a lot of moving parts, and we're watching them all with people in Nigeria in the lead up to Saturday. Peter Clottey, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. Appreciate your take early on this Friday.